So today I want to talk about something that a work friend of mine actually brought up, sent me a meme. And honestly, I'm super glad he did because it is such a good reminder when you're having a super stressful day or week or hour or minute. This week wasn't super great, actually. So I feel like it's something that we need to talk about. Not just in mental health spaces, but in everyday life. It's the idea of a glimmer. Have you heard of it? Most of us know what a trigger is. We use that a lot. I see that everywhere, right? Something happens, your heart starts racing, your stomach drops, your brain is suddenly not your friend. You're in fight, flight, freeze, anything, that's a trigger. But a glimmer is the opposite. It's one of those quiet little moments when your nervous system relaxes, even if it's just a little bit or for a moment. You might not even notice it at first, but your body notices it. Your body notices a glimmer. Maybe your shoulders just kind of drop down a little bit. Maybe your jaw unclenches. You may not even know that you're just really, tightening up your jaw. Maybe you just unclench that. Maybe you take a really deep breath. I was talking to a friend of mine that I run with once a week, and I told her, I said, sometimes after we run, I get in the car, I feel so much better. Like I don't think about anything. I'm not stressed. And on my way home, every once in a while, my body goes, and it just automatically takes this deep breath and releases it. And it gives me goosebumps. Like my whole body just goes, thanks. That's so great. And to me, that's a glimmer. It says maybe for the first time all day, you take a deep breath without even trying. And that's what happens after my run sometimes. I think it's because sometimes I get into my head during the week. I'm super great on the weekends and at night. Super great. I feel good. I can relax. And then sometimes work days just really stress me out. So then I go for a run and then my body goes, awesome, thanks. And I take this deep breath. Anyways, the word glimmer comes from something called Polyvagal Theory. I promise we're not going to go too into the weeds here, but Polyvagal Theory, okay, if you want to look it up. It's basically how our nervous system is always scanning the environment, looking for threats, but also looking for signs of safety. That scanning process is actually called neuroception. Neuroception, if you want to look that up too. It's neuroception. And it's happening constantly. You're scanning your environment. So when the system picks up something safe, even small, your body softens. That's a glimmer. And here's the thing, glimmers aren't big. They're not like fireworks, deep revelations, sometimes not even a really deep breath where you just go, oh, wow, cool, thanks. They're usually subtle until you start to notice them. Maybe it could be the sound of a child laughing down the hall or in the other room. Maybe that first sip of hot coffee in the morning. Ooh, I love that. I go sit outside. Or maybe it's the smell of rain hitting the pavement. Maybe you like rain. I have a lot of friends that like the rain. They sleep good. They can relax. Or maybe it's just someone texting you, hey, thinking of you, have a good day. They don't even want a response back. They're just letting you know they're thinking of you. Those are all glimmers. They don't fix everything. They don't erase the anxiety that you might be having, but they do interrupt the spiral. And sometimes that's enough. I've been trying to pay more attention lately, actively spotting what now I know are called glimmers throughout the day. And it's wild how many there actually are when we slow down and notice them. Just the other day, I was talking to someone and he laughed, and the way he laughed was like a bust. And I actually said out loud, that is amazing. Like, I love hearing people laugh. I also love people making me laugh. I just love to laugh. And he busted about something that we were talking about, and it was the funnest, coolest laugh. And I was like, that's a glimmer. I didn't know it was a glimmer, but I do now. The other day I heard a lawnmower running, and for some reason it just pulled me out of whatever I was thinking about because I love summer, and it reminded me of summer. It's a glimmer. When we start noticing glimmers, we're actually doing something called neuroplasticity. That's your brain's ability to change and rewire itself. So if you're used to constantly scanning for threats, which, a lot of us do maybe, you can actually start training your brain to also scan for calm, for ease, for tiny moments of okayness. Is that a word? I think so. So that shift matters. So this week especially, and lately, I've been asking myself a couple different questions. Like, at the end of the day, actually, this is a perfect example. I love how I just think of shit as soon as I'm sitting out here. Here's a perfect example. I got home and I was enraged, and I was ready to just tell my husband everything that was driving me nuts. And I kind of spoke for just a couple minutes and then went, but you know what? My day is done. And I closed my laptop and I was like, nope, this is not going to ruin my night. So instead of telling him or what was happening, and instead of saying what triggered me today, I actually just said, that's enough. I'm good. Now we're going to have a fun night. Or I had a book actually that I've been reading for the past 3 days. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to read a couple chapters there. We're going to have some dinner. Sometimes we like to go up to a city that's close by and go walk by the lake. It was just going to be a fun night. I wasn't going to be triggered and I wasn't going to keep thinking about what I was thinking about. So instead of, at the end of your day, maybe, sometimes we have stressful days, but when you get home, let's say, instead of asking yourself, what just pissed me off? What just triggered me? What is making me mad? What has stressed me out? Close the laptop, close the work mind if it's work or family or whatever it is, close everything and say, what was my glimmer today? One thing. It could be very, very, very small. Like, what made me feel grounded, like myself? What gave me a moment of peace? What pulled me back into the moment? Even if it's just a breath after lunch, even if it was just a moment of quiet. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. It's a lot more satisfying than keeping a list of everything that sets us off. So if you absolutely have to, write down everything that bothered you for the day, but then write down everything that was good and what's going to happen, how you're going to change this. Just a suggestion. Start a list. Write it down in your notes. Keep a little notebook. Actually, a couple years ago, I was having a really rough time. But every time I would have, and again, I had no idea that the word was glimmer. I had no idea. It was just, I didn't even know what I was calling it. Every time something good happened, I would put it in my calendar and I would put the time under the date. I mean, it was simple. Train ride was good. Met a stranger on the train. Had a great conversation with. And my calendar from 2 years ago, because I was so stressed, I decided that anything good that happened, I would put in my calendar. And if I was having kind of a stressful day or a bad day, I would look back at my calendar and, I remember that stranger on the train that I met. Oh, I remember, and I would, that was such a great song they played. We're going to talk about music here in a little bit as well. Or make a photo album in your phone of things that you like, your kids, your family, your spouse, your vacations, take a moment and look back at all of that because that makes you happy. Call it whatever you want, Glimmer Bank, safe zone, good stuff, whatever sounds cheesy to you. And just go back and look when you're having a really stressful day. Go look back at the beach. Go look back at your last vacation. Every time you notice something, a song you forgot you loved, a smell of clean laundry, a moment when someone really listens to you, just put it in there. Put it in the bank. Put it in the calendar. Put it in the album in your phone. When anxiety hits, you'll just have something to reach for. Just an idea. A reminder that not every moment is chaotic. Not every day has to be a bad storm. Okay, some moments are okay. If you are someone that feels like you don't have glimmers, like your brain is too loud, too fast, too heavy, oh boy, do I get that. My brain is too loud. Even just sitting outside for 30 seconds, noticing the air, that counts as a glimmer, whatever you want to call it. You don't have to feel better. You just have to notice it. Go outside, feel the sun, think of nothing for 10 seconds except for the sun on your skin, the wind that you're feeling. Maybe you're hearing the birds. Just take notice for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and then you can go back into the chaos. So yeah, glimmers or whatever you want to call it. I didn't even know, like I said, that they were called glimmers. It's a simple word. It's a powerful shift. So thank you to my friend that showed me the meme. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, here's your homework. Not really. We don't do quizzes. But what glimmered you today already? If you're listening to this in the morning, afternoon, whatever, what glimmered for you today? Might surprise you. You might even come up with 5 things. All right, now we're going to segue into when a song saves the day. I was talking to a friend. I'm a Dave Matthews Band fan. Look them up. They're great. They got a lot of live stuff. And I was talking to a friend who was also, she's a much bigger fan than me, but she was going through a pretty hard time last year and maybe the past couple years. I think it all kind of came to a boiling point last year. Some words I just cannot say. I need more coffee. And the songs from the Dave Matthews Band, I will say, and what she said saved her. Maybe this is her glimmer, is listening to their music. And since we're on the topic of glimmers, I want to talk about this. You could be having the worst day. You're exhausted. You're fighting with someone. You're overstimulated. You're stressed. You're stuck in traffic. You're fighting with your boss. You just had a conversation that left you absolutely drained. You want to go punch babies, as I say, which is horrible. I would never do that. And then all of a sudden a song comes on. Not just any song, or maybe a game, maybe a baseball game or a basketball game. And it's the game that you remember your favorite team winning, or it's your song, or it's your band, or even a song that reminds you of a time when things felt easier, lighter, just more you. And suddenly you're out of your head. You're not spinning anymore. You're just listening to this song, let's say, or you're listening to this game. As long as the game doesn't make you frustrated. Okay. So we're just going to stick with songs. It's just wild how fast it can happen. And this happened to my friend. So being a Dave Matthews Band fan, she always says their songs have saved her because you know what? Even when she was having a really rough time, she would listen to their songs and it would take her away from that really rough time. So that's the whole point here. You could be 1 minute away from crying in a parking lot and someone maybe next to you just says, hey, have you heard the new whoever album, and then all of a sudden your whole energy shifts because you're like, oh, I forgot about them, or I forgot about that artist. I'm going to go listen now. And it takes you away. It takes you outside of that stress for a little bit. Music can do that. It's like a shortcut to a version of you that feels more in control, or maybe more free, or just a little more alive. Okay, so quickly, there's actually science behind this. When you hear a song you love, your brain releases dopamine. That's the feel-good chemical. And it often happens before the chorus even hits. You could just hear a couple notes, and then the anticipation of what's coming next just brings out and releases the dopamine. It's the same chemical that gets released when you eat good food, when you hug someone, you accomplish something meaningful. And music gives it to us freely. No effort, no prep, just press play. There's also something called entertainment, and that part's cool. I love live music, so I get this one. Entertainment is when your body literally starts to sync up with the rhythm or tempo of the music. Have you caught yourself dancing in your kitchen? When was the last time you caught yourself dancing? Maybe it's time if you can't remember. So if you're listening to something slow and steady, your heartbeat might slow down a little bit, which isn't bad, especially if it's racing or your blood pressure is high. If the song is upbeat and powerful, your energy starts to rise to meet it. So maybe sometimes that's what you need. You're cleaning the house and you're just kind of, bumping along to your favorite music, or you need the tempo to calm you down. They have those calm apps and all that stuff. That's why putting on music you love can completely reset your mood. It can completely reset your nervous system. And it's not just an emotion, it's physical. I run to music sometimes. And if it's a slower song, my pace is slower. But I'm relaxed and I can breathe. If I'm going up a hill, I might have to change it to a faster song to get the heart pumping, get me going. Here's the real magic. Music doesn't just make you feel better. Sometimes it helps you remember who you are. So just like we were talking about glimmers, a song can be a glimmer for you. You can turn it on and go, yes, I'm just going to, for 3.5 minutes, I'm going to step away from life, from stress, from whatever's happening. There's days where you just feel totally lost, right? Buried in emails and errands, work stress, family needs, and then a song that maybe you used to love that you forgot about just suddenly brings you back to who you were. 3 minutes, it's you again. Maybe it's not the you that has it all together, but it gives you a moment and it gives your brain a moment to relax. I think that's the part that probably always gets me is music reminds us that we are not just tired, anxious, overwhelmed people. We're layered. We're like an onion. We're layered, right? We're emotional. We're passionate people. We're still connected to memories, identity, emotion, even if we haven't felt like ourselves in weeks. It's still there. We just have to find it. Okay, so we just talked about glimmers, the difference between trigger and glimmers. And we also just talked about how music can totally shift your mood, how that can be a glimmer, a reset, or a rescue on those hard days. But I also want to talk about something that feels just as real and maybe even a little more uncomfortable, and it's the days when music doesn't help. Have you ever been in your car and you're like flipping through the stations and you're just like, ugh, you just can't, and you just shut everything off. You put your go-to song on or your comfort artist song or that baseball game or the basketball game that you know, with Sirius radio or whatever, satellite radio, there's so much stuff you can turn on and you're like, this is going to make me feel better. It just doesn't. It doesn't. The stuff that makes you feel good all of a sudden doesn't. Nothing happens. You're actually more agitated. Maybe there's no spark, there's no shift, no goosebumps. It's just noise and you feel frustrated. Okay. There is a reason. Sometimes your nervous system just needs silence. It doesn't need quiet music. It doesn't need a podcast. It doesn't need a comforting playlist. It doesn't need a live game. It just needs silence. It's overloaded. It's overloaded. And I think sometimes silence gets a bad rap, especially in our culture, because we're just used to having that background noise, the music, the TV, notifications, podcasts, something always filling the air. So when silence shows up, it can feel a little bit weird. You can almost feel like a little bit of ringing in your ears like I do. It's uncomfortable. It can actually feel a little threatening because you're like, I'm going to be sitting too close to my own thoughts, right? Silence, it's not emptiness. It's space. Space for your system to settle. Space for your body to just be without needing to react to anything. There's actually a little science behind this too. Studies have shown that even short periods of silence, like 2 to 5 minutes, or 15 seconds outside if you need it, it can lower cortisol levels. And you know what cortisol is? That's the stress hormone, right? You may have seen commercials about it. Silence can also regulate your amygdala. That's the part of your brain that freaks out when it thinks it's in danger, even when you're not. So maybe, most importantly, silence allows your vagus nerve to activate. That's the same system that helps you with glimmers, okay? When you're in silence, your body gets a chance to shift into calm. Not because something external made you feel better, but because nothing is demanding your attention. So yeah, some days music is glimmer. Other days, silence is glimmer. Sometimes laughter from a child is glimmer. Sometimes your favorite book is glimmer. Sometimes a laugh is glimmer. Sometimes walking outside and feeling the sun is a glimmer. But silence is not always comfortable, but it can be honest. And that kind of honesty, the kind where you just kind of sit with whatever's there, can actually be what your body needs most. Breathe while you're doing it. If today is one of those days where everything feels like too much, even your favorite band can't pull you out of it, try turning everything off. No pressure to feel better, Just be still for a moment. Go sit outside. Even tell your spouse or whoever maybe you live with, if you live with someone else or your pets, I'm going to go outside for a minute, and go sit and relax. Close your eyes. Take a couple deep breaths. Let your system settle. Let your brain breathe. Let silence hold you. Even if it feels weird at first, that stillness might be the most healing sound of all. All right, so how do we come back from the quiet? Let's just say you've had one of those days. You go to your go-to playlist. It can't break through. You did the brave thing. You turned everything off. You let yourself sit in silence, and maybe it helped. Maybe it was only 10 seconds. Maybe it was 5 minutes. Good for you. Maybe it just made things feel still but not fixed, but a little less sharp, right? Oh my gosh, sometimes things just come in and it makes me want to throw up. But now the question becomes, when do I come back to the noise? Like maybe you're avoiding everything. That's maybe a sign to slowly and gently let something back in. Maybe you'll have a different view on it, maybe a different look on it. Not everything, all right, at once, just maybe something. So how do you come back? You don't need to jump right into your playlist. You don't need to jump right into a conversation. Start small. Maybe a voice you trust. Maybe a couple lyrics you trust. Maybe a friend's note, voice note, instrumental track, birds, wind, whatever. You're not forcing joy. You're inviting connection. And it doesn't land right away. And that's okay. Don't push it. Don't push it. Just notice what feels tolerable, what feels neutral, and what feels less hard than just a few minutes ago. One thing at a time. Here's something to remember, especially for people who live with anxiety. If you're here, might be why. Coming back to music after silence, stepping into conversation after silence or after a hard day, even your own thoughts after a shutdown moment, they might not be ready to be proactive. It's just about being present, dropping off everything else. You don't even have to snap out of it. It's just about slowly stepping back into yourself with a calmer self. Maybe you'll listen to a song and realize, I'm not ready for that. That's not failure. That's just feedback. You're telling yourself, I'm not ready for that music, or I'm not ready for this conversation. You're just learning what you need, and that's progress. Maybe something just absolutely made you insane. I had kind of a morning like that a couple weeks ago. I was like, are you even kidding me? So before I went into a store, I sat in my car for just a couple minutes and I listened to myself breathe. And then I was like, okay, I'm ready. I reread an email that I think I was being a little dramatic about, and I read it again and went, oh, that's what they need. No problem. Reply. Then I was like, okay, I'm going to walk into the store and get this done. It's going to be just a pain in the butt. But guess what? It wasn't. It wasn't, because I was able to just let go of everything for just a few minutes and then continue on with my day. Sometimes your body just needs, and your mind just needs a shutdown phase, just a quick restart. Here's the good news. Even on the days when music doesn't work and silence feels awkward and your glimmers are hiding, your nervous system is still paying attention. Your body is still doing its job, trying to protect you, trying to find balance, even if it doesn't look pretty or handsome. And that in itself is something to be proud of, knowing that your nervous system is still paying attention. So healing isn't loud, regulation isn't flashy. Sometimes it's just choosing to stay with yourself, be gentle on yourself, even through a discomfort, even through a stressful day. Whether it's your favorite song, sitting quietly, hands on your chest, waiting for the next okay moment, here's the hopeful part. Glimmers come back. Sometimes you got to search for them a little bit. Don't search too much. They do. Sometimes they return as a song. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's a deep breath. But they're all around. Sometimes you have to force a silence on yourself. A couple deep breaths. Go sit outside. You're not broken. You're not stuck. You're in motion, even if it's quiet, even if it's slow. And motion means hope. Motion means progress. Take the silence if you need it. Play the song when you're ready. And truly know that one small moment can shift everything. Go find some glimmers. Sometimes it takes time. And when it does, you'll feel it. Maybe not all at once. Everything is a practice. But it's always enough to keep going. You got this. Talk to you next time.